Hey folks, this is Farhan Akil from GeeksCreative and welcome to another episode on Magic Leap with Unity3D. And in this episode or in this tutorial, what we are going to learn is how we can detect real-life 3D models or real-life objects in simulator that we have created in the virtual room generator, because in the previous videos we haven't been able to interact with those rooms in Unity or in the simulator on runtime. So in this video we are going to do that, and also what we are going to do is we are going to keybind some inputs in the simulator, and we are going to do some collision with those 3D models that we have created in the room generator. For example, if I press like C, and it is already completed, so I'm just going to show you what will be the end result. So if I press C, you can see on the left side that I hit the chair and it started a fire. So it's a basic particle system, but the main idea about this tutorial is how we can detect some collisions and how we can do some real life physical object detection. So let's get started. Okay, so before we can even do something, I don't really want to repeat all the steps that I've been doing for the last 2 to 3 videos, that I create a new project, then I import the Magic Leap package and do all the same things again. So what I did is I created a new project. Make sure that you have the template as Magic Leap selected, and then what I did is I imported the standard assets package, not complete, but I just checked on the particle system and I just unchecked the scripts, because if there are scripts they will going to give you some errors. So I unchecked the scripts, I only included the particle system and imported the standard assets package, and we are good to go. Now the first thing you need to do is go to this Magic Leap folder, and inside examples and under scenes we have this controller, and this doesn't actually do anything right now because the simulator is not binded, or there are no inputs that are binded to the simulator. So if you try to run this scene alone right now, it won't gonna do anything because the keyboards are null right now. Okay, the first thing we are going to do is we are going to bind the input to the simulator, and to do that what we can do is we can bind using, like, the first thing we will need to do is open up the Magic Leap remote. So remote, so the Magic Leap remote has been started. What we can do is we can just click on start simulator, because to bind the inputs we have to start the simulator, and I'm not sure whether it's a bug or not, that whenever we start the simulator again it asks us to keybind the inputs again. So you have to bear it with me that whenever we start the simulator again we will have to keybind. So to do that what we can do is on this remote, and after the simulator has been started and you have these green dots over here, what you can do, you can just click on these 3 dots and click on edit Furfural bindings, and you will see that you have different options, and I'm going to discuss it like in 2 minutes. Just make sure that we have this bumper, and just click on, just double click, and you will see that there is and just click on C. Okay, and what we did is there are a few controllers or a few buttons, tabs and trackpad on the Magic Leap controller, that the physical controller, and what we did is we have given C key on that controller's bumper input. Okay, bumper is some sort of a button, and there's a tap, there's a button move, some touches, and also some gestures. Okay, input button app, there are several buttons in the Magic Leap remote controller. So just make sure that you have this bumper as C or K or whatever you want, but for right now we are going to use C. Okay, you can just close, and this was just the way to set up the key bindings. We are going to use the simulator in the like 2 to 3 minutes. Okay, for now just exit that, like stop the Magic Leap simulator or the remote server. Now the way that we can detect those inputs is by going on this content, in controller example, you will get to see a controller example game object, and it has a controller example script that has different inputs. Like you have this controller prefab that has these inputs binded to like as a reference. So to do any sort of thing in those input, what we can do, we can just double click on controller example and it will open up the script, and you will have to find like this bumper. Okay, like on the front you will be able to find this bumper, and whenever we trigger the bumper input, it will execute this code. And the way that we can do that is using a debug log. So debug.log input bumper detected. Okay, so we're just making sure that our bumper is working after the key bindings, of course. So let's start the simulator again, and the simulator has been like loaded. Okay, it's loaded, and we have these three dots. Just make sure that we do the bindings. It's unmapped. I just restarted the simulator and it's like back to unmapped. Just double click on it when we have this circle. So just click on, or just press C for cat. Okay, and this white screen is a bit static, so let's just load up the virtual room that we created like 2 videos before. Load virtual room, and I have this large room modified, like just like the previous one. And let's just minimize this, and let's just click on play. And yes, make sure that you have this LumenOS like as your target platform, and you have this enable zero iteration done. If you haven't, it will going to ask you to restart the project and import the files. So I have already done the zero iteration, so it's not asking me to restart the Unity project. Now what we can do is we can just click on play, and if we press C, as we have the bindings, so if you press C, we should see the debug log over here. Now let's load up the simulator, and if I press C, okay, so input bumper detected. I've pressed the C several times, so let's see. Yes, I have 12 inputs of those lines that I have detected. Okay, so it's working. Now what we need to do is we need to detect some physical objects. Like right now we cannot really interact with these things, as these are just virtual objects. They don't have any collider and they don't have a mesh really in the Unity. If you just play the game, you can see that there is no mesh detected. Okay, in the scene, even if you even if you play the game and you move around or you look around, you can see that there is no mesh in Unity. And the way we can solve this issue is by using a prefab that is already present in the Magic Leap example Unity package. What we can do, let's just do one thing. Let's just not change this default controller.unity scene. Let's just rename it and save it as something else. Okay, in the scenes, let's say ball shooting, because ultimately we are going to shoot some balls. Now it is saved inside the scenes. Let's open up the ball shooting, and let's just drag these 3 game objects out of the rendering game object. We don't need that. Okay, now save. Now what we want to do is we want to get those things that are available in the virtual room to be present in the game, or like in Unity. Okay, so that we can collide with it, we can do some interactions, we can destroy things, we can enable some collisions. Okay, in short, to do that we can just go to Magic Leap and examples, some prefabs, and we have this ML spatial mapper. Now spatial or spatial, whatever you pronounce it. So we have this spatial mapper, and it has a component that is spatial mapper of type Unity asset, and inside that it has a game object that is a mesh with no mesh. It has a mesh collider with no mesh. So what it will going to do, it will going to render the physical objects that you see with your simulator, and it will get those and draw them in your game. Now it has a matching poll time, and what it does, it basically checks on every this interval that if there is any new game object detected or new object or new physical object detected that he should draw on Unity. And if we decrease this like 1 second, it's like 1 second, on every second it will going to check whether there's a new game object or a new object that has been present in real life, so it will going to simulate it inside the game. And if we like decrease the time, so it means that every zero point 0.5 seconds it will going to check for a new object. And mesh type blocks are full. By default it comes with full, and what it will going to do is it will going to combine a mesh and then paste it in the game scene. Okay, just like static batching does. If you have static selected, so it will going to merge the game objects to a single mesh, and then it will going to render it as a single game object. Now we don't really want that. We want it to be in blocks, so it should be broken meshes. Now the third thing is we need to make sure that we have this 50 50 50. Okay, and what it does, it is basically a bounce that is for our virtual room. Is because we have created a large room, so we need this to be 50 50 and 50. If you have a small room, it can be small. Okay, and what it will going to do, it will going to render or check within these 50 ranges, like 50-meter range, whether there is a new game object or not. Okay, now let's just do one thing, is start the simulator again and start it. And we are going to do the key bindings. So unmapped C, close it, and load virtual room, large room modified, and it's done. Okay, so we are in the virtual room, and let's just click on play. Okay, so you can notice that where our camera is rendering or where our camera is looking, it is automatically generating some mesh. Okay, and if we like look around, it will going to detect some more mesh, and it will going to draw that mesh as blocks or a single mesh if you have full selected. So we can see in the map spatial mapper, we had only this original, and now we have several fragments. And let's just look around and make sure that we have some more objects detected. And if you are not getting the colliders or not detecting the object, what you can do, you can just go to this spatial mapper and increase the bound extents. Okay, and in this Magic Leap remote, just click on W and you go like some forward, you go in some forward direction, and it will going to detect some planes and meshes. And it is a bit laggy. I understand that it is a bit laggy, and it is because of the hardware configuration what you are working on. And you can see that we have successfully detected the chairs and tables. Okay, now we have just detected, but we haven't done any collision, and they are ready for collision if we have a game object that has a rigid body. Okay, so the next thing we are going to do is we are going to instantiate some balls on those key binding, and we are going to make that ball collide with our virtual room. Okay, so let's just click on play again to stop the game. So now on the script, in the controller example, when we have written this input bumper detected, what we can do is we can instantiate a new bullet or a ball. So the first thing is a public game object, because we are going to refer it on runtime through the inspector. And let's just make it as bullet go, like the bullet game object. And let's just instantiate that bullet game object using the instantiate bullet game object. The next thing is the position. We really don't want to instantiate the bullet game object on the same position that our camera is, because it will not going to render as it will have the same position. Now what we want is we want to instantiate it in front of our main camera, like a little bit of in forward in the Z. So what we are going to use is we are going to use the class camera.main.transform.position. This will going to return us the default position, or the position that our camera is currently in, and we're going to add a forward to this position. And to do that, what we can do is camera.main.transform.forward, and the rotation, let's just leave it as that, like the camera transform.rotation. Okay, so it will going to instantiate the bullet game object in front or in the forward direction of the camera. So now let's test this in the simulator. You would be saying that I'm really a dumb guy that I'm restarting the simulator, and actually it's consuming some of my RAM and it's making the Visual Studio a bit lag. So on the peripherals, edit peripherals binding, double C or C, close that. You're going to load the virtual room, large room modified, and close it. And on Unity, okay, why is this? Well, there shouldn't be an error. Okay, so the error is gone. It was just loading. So now let's just click on play, and it should instantiate the bullet game object when we press C. Now magically promote and C. Okay, so we got an error, and yes, it's because that we haven't set the reference to our bullet game object. That was not good. And to do that, what I did is I only copied this earth shrinking like game object, and I removed the animator and destroy after time script, and it was good to go. So let's just give it as reference controller example. You have this bullet game object variable in the inspector. So let's just give it the reference and clear and click on play. Okay, so we have this. If we press C, you can see that the ball or the bullet is being instantiated. It's not actually a bullet, it's just an earth, but we can change its texture to make it a bullet. So it is instantiating the bullet the weird bullet, and you can see that it's not changing the position. Is because we are rotating our head, and it should work like this because we haven't set any gravity or any some sort of a rigid body, so that's why it's like staying there. It's working fine, and we have this input bumper detected. It's working fine. Now the next thing is we want to add a rigid body, and to add a rigid body we can just add it as a component, and inside this prefab rigid body, and we can reduce its mass to 0.1, and let's just click on again. As we have already gone through the physical object detection, so it should work with the rigid body attached to the bullet game object. It should get into some sort of collision with that room, because you can see that we have this mesh generated, and we have to look just a little bit around so it draws those meshes in Unity. Okay, and if I just go here, you can even see that it is drawing some wireframes on Magic Leap Simulator. Okay, so this has been drawn. Okay, so it has been drawn, and if I press C, okay, so the ball has fall, but has it detected? Okay, so the object has been doing some collision with the floor. You can see that on the floor we have these two balls, and we can instantiate one more ball. You can see more clear on the left side because it's Unity, and due to the simulator it's lagging a bit. And we have just instantiated one more ball and it dropped. Okay, one more and it dropped. Okay, so it's working fine. Now the next thing we want to do is we want to instantiate a particle system or a fire with these collisions. And to do that, what I'm going to do is just select this bullet game object and add a component and just write a bullet script. We are going to add a new script using this component and C# create and add. And let's just open this script. And the script is loaded, and you can already say that there was on collision enter running on those bullet game objects. So void on collision enter, because we want to instantiate a fire on that collision. And what we can do is we can just remove this private and remove these two functions as well. We need a reference to that particle system, so what we can do is we can create a public variable, public game object particles. Now the particles variable has been done. What we can do, just check whether our collision enter is working fine or not. Let's just write debug.log that what is the game object that is colliding, like the bullet game object, collision.name or game object.name. Okay, and let's just go back to Unity. So our bullet script has the particles variable and on collision enter method that we're going to return which game object our bullet game object is colliding with. So let's just give it this particles. We're not instantiating right now, but let's just do it. I have used FireMobile from the standard asset. It's a really a good asset. I have tested it. So let's just click on play. And in the simulator, let's just spawn some balls. So let's just click on C. It instantiated some balls, and you can notice one thing. Okay, there is a problem. There is a problem that you can see that our ball is continuously colliding with several game objects. You can see that it is colliding with different game objects at the same time. You can see that it has collided with 3 times with mash fragment 3210, and the reason why is because our Magic Leap simulator or this prefab spatial mapper is continuously looking for new game objects, and it is like re-rendering or redrawing all the meshes and combining it to create some colliders. That is the reason that you are colliding with one single mesh on multiple times. And to reduce this, what we can do is we can use a boolean. Now to create a boolean, what we can do is we can just go to the script, Visual Studio, and create a bool, and I'm going to name it as collision done. Now I'm just going to check whether the collision has not been done. If it has been done, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to just skip this line of code, and to do that, if collision done is false, then just go into this debug log line and collision done equals to true. Okay, let's just check that out again. Go to Unity, click on play. Okay, so in the simulator, let's just go and spawn a ball. Input bumper detected and mash fragment, so it has like just one once. Okay, now what we want is we want to instantiate a particle like the fire when we collide with any game object. And to do that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to instantiate particles. Now the position we want is we want the point of impact or the point of collision that our ball has been collided, and to get that what we can do is under this collision we have an object array, like an array of object that is called contacts, and on its zeroth index it will give the first collision point. Okay, so our point of instantiating is point and a transform dot rotation. Okay, we don't need any sort of rotation, so transform dot rotation, and it will going to work fine. The next thing we want, we're going to instantiate the particle with this. Let's just do one more thing. Now as you can see that our ball uh, just go down. We want to apply some force, so let's do one more thing. Let's give it a variable, game object geo equals to, and we're going to refer its rigid body and apply some force. And to do that, go dot get component rigid body dot add force, and we are going to apply some force in the forward direction. So in the forward direction, transform dot forward, or we want to transform forward of the camera, so camera dot main transform dot forward, and let's apply a force. So force can be 50 or 60. Let's put 65, just a random number. So we have applied this game object a little bit of force so that we can see that the ball is going in the forward direction. Let's just go back to Unity and click on play. And go to the simulator. This is like drawing some meshes, as you can see. It is continuously drawing some meshes on the left side, you can notice. And okay, so let's like look at here. Do we have some wireframes? Yes, we have some wireframes over here. Press C. Okay, yes. Okay, so it's instantiating the fire, and yes, the rigid body is working, the collision is working, but it's not prominent. And there can possibly one more reason, that sometimes it's drawing again. That's why it detected the collision with the wall and some stash and some collision points issue. Let's draw this fire, or let's instantiate this fire in this chair. Okay, press C. So we launch the ball, and you can see that we can detect some collision. Also, we can instantiate the particles, like the fire particles, on this chair. Okay, boom. Well, it's a bit funny, but it will going to give some lag. Okay, so it's not detecting a plane over here. Let's just move forward to make sure that it detects a plane. You can see that wherever I look, it draws some meshes, okay, and it's because of this meshing pole time. So press C. Okay. Alright. So it's working. And let's just make sure that we got some meshes over here. Okay, so this is the point where we have several meshes. We have this clock, and if we go to this clock area, where it is, Okay, so here's the clock area. And we got this wireframe, and let's just instantiate some balls. Okay, you can see that it is instantiating and the collision is working very fine. And let's just instantiate one more ball. Okay, see, I'm trying to hit this like portrait, considering it as a target. Okay, yes, boom. So it's working. So in this video, we have learned how we can bind some key inputs and how we can detect things that are in the real world and how we can project those in our Magic Leap device or Magic Leap simulator, and it's going to work the same way as it did with the virtual room generator, that we were able to look at things and it projected those things in the Unity game and we were able to do some collisions. It will going to work the same way as in real life. So we also instantiated some particles and we also applied some force with that key binding and with that instantiation. And I'm going to upload more content as I learn Magic Leap myself. So in the last week was a bit hectic and I had some issues with my system. So that was the reason I was not able to upload any video for the last like 7 days. So I apologize for that. And if you guys like this video, if you guys were able to learn a new thing from this video, so I will highly encourage you to like, share, and subscribe. And see you guys in the next video.